Sri Lanka has gone very wrong. The Chinese have put in a huge amount of money. Huge amount of that money is being stolen. And it didn't pan out. But the idea the Chinese are proposing is prosperity. China, they've given $100 billion to Pakistan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so they have a very clear vision about what they are trying to do. And it's a powerful idea. It's not that it doesn't have a basis. But from our perspective, I think we need to have an idea that provides prosperity. Of course, there is a defense angle to it, but there has to be an economic angle to it.
Right.
And currently, I don't see the economic angle to it.
So
Our relationship with the United States,
yeah,
for example,
yeah,
is hugely about defense.
that's right. It's moving that way. Clearly.
More and more.
More and more.
I mean, when we talk to the Americans and the Americans talk to us, we talk about defense.
Yeah.
We don't talk about, okay, how do we jointly create prosperity and create a democratic model that can make people rich?
And does that worry you?
What do you mean? Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. So so onto Ukraine and then I'll come to a final question before I open it, which is that the whole story of Ukraine, when India kind of, as it were, refused to take a position, spooked certainly the international media and strategic circles here. Because precisely for the reasons you have just mentioned, that in the last 10 to 15 years, India has been seen to be going closer to the US, and then for not actually signing on to the UN story, the UN amendment, well, not amendment, the UN move. It was seen, well, what is India up to? And the word that was used in India was that, well, India doesn't really want this bipolarity. It's going to have a multipolar world. How do you read this? Is this a continuation of Nehru's idea of non-alignment, which has been resurrected in certain kind of perverse ways again, or is it?
No, I don't think the government believes in Nehru's idea of non-alignment, but I think the government understood its constraints, and it understood clearly what the constraints were, and I don't think they had much of a choice, myself, right? But I think it's better to have a foreign policy that is strategically thought out, instead of a foreign policy where you take one decision with one event and then suddenly another decision with another event, right? And I also don't think it's about being, with America or against America.
That's right.
I think it's more nuanced than that. I think India is a big country, and India has multiple relationships, and India has to deal with the complexity of its own reality.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a slightly semi-personal question, and then I'm going to open the floor, which is because obviously 75 years, we can take small bite sizes into the last opening decades and now more recent decades. But actually there's a middle period, and you and I both belong to that middle period of that generation, which is that we are not Midnight's children. We are born in the 70s. We don't have any of the optimism that our parents' generation had. And we, of course, also grew up with a lot of collective violence around us. I in Punjab, but I was not alone. There were people in the Northeast, Kashmir. But also, soon after that, you had the Hindu-Muslim story flaring up with the Babri Masjid mobilization and caste violence as well. So violence, has been a kind of big feature of people of our generation. And in your case, it's all too personal. So, we've just had a recent anniversary of your father's assassination this weekend. So my question really is about actually a kind of Gandhian question about violence and how to live with it. And in your case, it's also personal. And so could you sort of say a little bit on your own personal resilience on it, but also how you envision the compact between violence and non-violence in Indian society?
I think, the word that comes to mind is forgiveness, right? It's not precisely the most accurate. It's you realize, well, I'm thinking, you realize, right? No, because you've
I didn't mean to stump you, but it's
No, you
a
haven't
very
stumped me.
obvious. It's a very
No, you
obvious
haven't-
question.
You haven't stumped me.
But no one's asked you. I'm surprised.
No, they've asked.
Have they? I've not. Then why don't you have the?
Because
why don't I know
I'm
the
trying
answer?
to go deeper in the answer.
Okay, let's do this.
So, I think in life, you will always, especially if you're in places where large energies are moving, right? You will always get hurt. It's not, if you do what I do, you will get hurt. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty, right? Because it's like swimming in a ocean with big waves, right? You are going to go under. It's not that you're not, right? So then, when you go under, you learn how to react properly. So when you
So loss is productive. Loss.
the
versus-
single biggest learning experience of my life was my father's death. There is no bigger experience than that. Right? Now, I can look at it and say, the person who, or the force that killed my father, caused me tremendous pain. Sure, it's correct. As a son, I lost my father, and many of you would have, and that's very painful. But then I can't get away from the fact that that same event also made me learn things that I would have never ever learned otherwise. Right? So, as long as you're ready to learn, it doesn't matter how nasty people are or how evil people are, as long as you're ready to learn. If I turn around and, Mr. Modi attacks me and I say, oh my God, he's so vicious, he's attacking me. That's one way of looking at it. And the other way of looking at it is say, great, I just learned something from him. Give me some more.
Okay. Very Gandhian. But now, yeah, with you.
No, but you come to this, right? When you're facing an attack, you come to this. There is no other realization possible. It's like that. There's a poem. I don't remember the name. It's written by, I think it's a Palestinian person
All right.
who's been put in jail.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And he's talking to the jailer. And the jailer, he says to the jailer, look, from the small window of my cell, I can see your big cell.
Right.
Right? So everyone's in jail.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you've got to be able to see that properly.
Right.
And if you see that properly, then you can figure out ways to deal with it or ways to get out.
Well, thank you.